ring the bell, about to go on. Like, that's what goes to my mind. Like, all it's done, all the hard work, all the miles I've run, all the times I've puked, all the pushing your body to the point where you can't even push any further is done. It's time to go do work.
They are set to go to battle.
And that, to me, is what it's all about. That feeling when you're standing there hopping and they go.
Here we go!
Dude, there's nothing in the world that can touch that feeling.
They touch him up and we are underway.
That's why I do it for free. That exact minute, you got me pumped up right now, like I'm ready to go right now, just reliving all that.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 35 of Combat Docket Radio. As always, it's Ben and Kurt here to break down everything going on in the MMA world this week. What's going on, Ben?
Not a lot, man. Feeling pretty good here. I'm in the middle of a hellacious thunderstorm here in Kansas City, but I'm safe inside my own apartment.
Good stuff, man. I am not going through a thunderstorm. Those went through last week. It's actually bright and sunny out here in lovely Connecticut. But
actually, hold on. I think I'm not in that good of a mood because I shaved off my mustache yesterday.
Yeah, bad move. It's like a minus 15 points.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't say anything. I shaved mine off too. I gotta grow that thing back. That thing's awesome.
Instantly regretted it.
Yeah, I know. Once you get past that first, I feel like every time I used to shave a mustache, I'd look at myself in the mirror and be like, dude, what are you doing? Take that off. That's the first time I actually kept it and ventured out into the world with it. It was a hit. It went well. Did you have the same feeling and experience?
I think my favorite part about having the mustache was I would forget I have it, and then somebody who hadn't seen me in a minute would be like, "Oh shit, look at that mustache!" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have this thing on my face." That was
props on that
part.
thing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna open up this show. We're gonna talk a little bit later about the UFC Singapore card, but the main headline of this card is Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone taking on another one of those fights that he's taken on just an absolute stud without the biggest name. Leon Edwards has a 5-fight win streak. And man, it's kind of like the Darren Till fight. He just doesn't care. He takes whatever fights are possible, and that's really been the story of his career. And Ben and I are going to go through what we think are 5 of his greatest moments in fights, and I'm sure we're going to have some of the same things. Hopefully we'll have a couple different ones. But why don't you start off first, Ben?
All right. So I came up with a list of his Cowboy Cerrone's 5 best UFC performances, which is, if you don't include WEC, it's still hard to pick, because he's had so many fights. But I started with one of his earlier UFC fights was against Evan Dunham. And I just thought that was in my mind, kind of Cowboy Cerrone's coming out party as somebody who was absolutely among the elite at lightweight in the UFC, and B, he fucking dominated Evan Dunham on the mat in that fight, which is crazy because we think of Dunham as this stud grappler, and he is, but Cerrone just chewed him up on the feet and chewed him up on the mat. That was way back in fucking 2013.
And that was coming off a loss too, losing to Dos Anjos. Yep. And that started his win streak, that incredible win streak he went on, which that was probably my, I did the top 5 moments fights, but that was probably my biggest highlight for Cerrone's career was that win streak he went on to get the rematch title shot with Dos Anjos. He had, 8 or 9 wins in the span of, I don't even know, how many months was that? November 16th, 2013, all the way to May 23rd, 2015.
He had 8, so a year and a half, he had 8 wins.
8 wins. And you look at his record, and one of my favorite fights for Cerrone, and not just because of the action, but I thought it was a really marquee win, and this was one of the fights I marked down, was his fight with Eddie Alvarez. Alvarez's debut coming over from Bellator, we knew all the accolades about Alvarez. It was just cool to see a guy Cerrone came up through the WEC, killing it in the UFC. At that time, he had a 4-fight win streak going against Eddie Alvarez. They did Alvarez no favors And Cerrone pulled off a big win right in the middle of that streak. So that was a huge moment for me in Cerrone's career.
Yeah, that's on my list as well as one of his best performances. I rewatched it last night. And you forget Eddie Alvarez hurt Cerrone bad in the first round. And Cerrone just punished his leg in rounds 2 and 3 and I think finished on top in the end of the fight, was on top, putting ground and pound down. Yeah. That was definitely on my list. Let's see, going back. So I had Evan Dunham and the win over Eddie Alvarez. I also had, going back a little bit before Eddie Alvarez, was his win over Edson Barboza, which for me shows like how incredibly fast Cerrone can finish you. Because I don't know if you remember that fight, but he drops Barboza with a jab, and just kind of a flash. Like, yes, Barboza was dazed and hurt, but he was not, I think 90% of other fighters, Barboza can recover there and get his wits about him and get back to his feet, or, recover. Cerrone takes his back with the quickness and just finishes it. And this was after Barboza had really tagged him up in the first couple minutes of that fight. I had Barboza on there as well.
Yeah, man, the way as soon as you drop Barboza, he got right to his neck and finished him so fast. And you look at Barboza now, and Barboza since that fight, that's one of the scariest dudes in the weight class. And again, that was in the midst of that big run for Cerrone. Another fight I have on there is his last fight, man, Yancy Medeiros. Coming off the 3 losses, especially that last loss to Darren Till. He said he wanted to go back down to 55, and then he takes this fight with Medeiros, who is just Medeiros is a stud. The guy's an all-action fighter. You kind of wondered, is that a good fight for Cerrone? But then the fight fan in you is like, oh my God, these guys are going to be fucking dynamite together. And they delivered. And, Cerrone knocked Yancy Medeiros out with 2 seconds left in that round. Absolute wild round. Those guys delivered. And it sets them up for this fight coming up this weekend. Yeah,
it was, and I think welterweight Donald Cerrone is almost kind of more exciting. Part of it is he's later in his career, so he has probably kind of more tools. But he definitely, I feel like, lets it go even more so at welterweight. Which brings me.
Yeah, he has fun.
Yeah, I think I especially think at this point in his career, he is not so. Not that he was ever a nervous fighter, but we had seen him kind of crumble in big moments before, and I feel like now he's just kind of letting it fly. Which brings me to another fight on my list, which was welterweight Donald Cerrone against Rick Story, with one of the all-time best finishing sequences to knock out Rick Story, that we've really ever seen. The combination that he put on him, where it was I want to say a jab to the head across the body, like an uppercut followed by a head kick. It looked like he was hitting pads, only he was hitting Rick Story.
Yeah, that's number one for me. That combination is just unreal. And if you look at Story too, Story is a rough, tough customer. The guy's always had a good chin. He's a tough dude to deal with. Man, that combo was fucking insane. So good.
Yeah, absolutely. I love watching that. And I guess, so we'll go, I'm going to go a little bit out of order here. So the last fight on my list for Donald Cerrone's best UFC performances was against Jim Miller, which was in between the Eddie Alvarez and Edson Barboza wins, which was in the middle of that fucking 8-fight win streak, which is crazy. I think the wins over Barboza, Miller, and Alvarez were maybe his 3 best wins in a row his entire career. And that was when Jim Miller still is a stud, but he's, retiring on the tail end of his career. But Jim Miller was a stud then. And Cerrone, again, he finished him with a head kick, but on the mat, Cerrone dominated Jim Miller on the mat, which is kind of swept him with an omoplata, that kind of stuff. Just stuff you don't expect. People think of him as a kickboxer, but he is an absolute stud on the mat. Yeah,
he is. Always had a real slick ground game. And actually, one of my earlier fights that I put on this for Cerrone was a triangle submission win over Chris Horodecki. WEC 53, his last fight before going into the UFC. He was on a 2-fight win streak. He avenged his loss to Jamie. Do you remember that first Jamie Varner fight with Donald Cerrone? Way back when in 2009.
Yeah.
He hit Jamie Varner with like a weird knee. And I remember Jamie Varner. I vaguely remember. I didn't get a chance to rewatch it. But yeah, that Chris Horodecki win. I used to like Chris Horodecki a lot too. And again, just patented Cerrone ground game, tough guard to pass, opportunistic triangles and arm bars, and it got his career rolling heading into the UFC. His last win in the WEC.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Are there any other WEC like stalwarts still in the UFC at the top? I mean, Anthony Pettis, I suppose.
Pettis. Dominic Cruz. Trying to think.
I mean, Demetrius Johnson.
Eddie Wineland's still kicking around.
Man, WEC, the blue cage.
That's a good question.
The blue cage never die. People say pride never die. Never let the blue cage die.
Absolutely. So many good fighters came out of there too.
Yeah.
So many good fighters.
Yeah. And I feel like Donald Cerrone is like, he never won. He's probably never going to win a UFC title, but I feel like he's like leading the pack. I mean, Benson Henderson fucking won the title, but when you think of WEC guys, I don't necessarily think of Anthony Pettis or Benson Henderson. Like I think of Donald Cerrone, to be honest.
Donald Cerrone and Uriah Faber. Those are probably like the two.
Yeah.
But man, hell of a career for Cerrone. How long do you think let's say he wins this weekend. Is he just at that point where he's at that point where he's just taking random fights now, right? Like doesn't really have a title in mind? Because I feel like, Yancy Medeiros, Leon Edwards, I don't think they're bringing him anywhere, and I don't think he cares.
No, yeah. I think they're using him as a way to test prospects, just exactly what they did with exactly what they did with Darren Till. What they're doing now with Leon Edwards, to a lesser degree, I think what they did with Medeiros. But yeah, I don't think he cares. I don't think he doesn't strike me as the guy who has any aspirations to capture a title or get any specific wins in his career. He just kind of wants to fight and enjoys it.
Yeah, man, I have no problem with that either. 35 years old. How many fights is this in the UFC for him now?
That's a good question.
Man, it's got to be because he's at what, 19 wins, right? Another win would tie him with, or is this the record-breaking win? Did he get 20 against Medeiros?
Man, I don't know. I'm looking here. I thought his Wikipedia page had all this stuff at the top because he has. Man. He is tied for the most wins in the promotion of 20. So if he gets the win here, then he has the most wins in the UFC.
He breaks the record. 35 years old, yeah. It's wild, man.
And I could see him fighting for a couple more years. I could see him fighting till he's Absolutely. Like 37, 38. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he could get 3, 4, 5 more wins, especially at the rate he fights at.
Shatter the record. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially taking these fights too. I mean, Cerrone's jumped into short notice fights before. He's taken risky fights. I mean, win, lose, or draw, that the guy is an absolute stud. Let's talk about this actual fight. So real quick before we talk about the fights, what time does this card actually start? I know it's a Fight Pass exclusive. Is it like 4 a.m.?
I want to say the first fight is at like 3 a.m. Eastern. The first prelim. Because it's in Singapore.
3 a.m.
It's in Singapore.
It is.
So, I got Fight Pass. It doesn't really bother. I mean, I'll wake up whenever I wake up and watch it because I can always watch the replay. I mean, that's what I'll do. I like the Euro
I got
cards.
up for the last. Yeah, these are
the ones in Europe are when it starts at like 11 a.m. or something. That's like fucking perfect for me. But I mean, I'm not going to get up at 3 a.m. to watch. Let's see who the first fight of the night is. Ji Yeon Kim and Melinda Fabian. I'm not going to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch that.
Come on, man. What the hell?
I'm not a hardcore, apparently.
Wake up, crack a beer, and watch women's flyweight.
Two women with no Wikipedia
I'm with
page.
I'll get up when I get up. I definitely want to see. The main card's not bad. Peter Yan's on the card. I used to get up for Ben Askren's fights. Not like I got up for the whole card, but I definitely got up to watch him fight at like 6:30 a.m. We'll see how I'm feeling.
Naturally.
Anyways, all right. So, headlined Leon Edwards 5-fight win streak going up against Donald Cerrone. I mean, this is he fought Kamaru Usman, but besides Kamaru Usman, again, this is another big step up for him. He lost to Kamaru Usman, but he's now on a 5-fight win streak since, with a couple nice wins. Vicente Luque, Albert Tumanov, Peter Sabata in his last fight. But Cerrone's a different beast, man. How do you think Leon Edwards fares in his second step up to the upper echelon of competition?
You know, I'm torn, and I was trying to watch some tape on this and figure out how I feel about the fight. I think, as is the case with probably most Donald Cerrone fights at this point, I think Cerrone is the better, more skilled fighter in basically every situation. Leon Edwards has been kind of billed as a striker, but this 5-fight win streak has been mostly him out grappling opponents and taking them down and kind of grinding on them against the cage, that kind of stuff. And I do think in open space, Cerrone is the better striker, and Leon Edwards will give him the space to work. He's not like a pressure fighter, 100% a pressure fighter. In the clinch, I think Cerrone has the ability to chew him up. On the mat, I definitely think Cerrone is the better grappler. But to be honest, man, it's a five-round fight, and I don't know how much I trust Cerrone to keep it together against like a relatively large welterweight who's just physical, powerful, a southpaw. Cerrone's always had trouble with southpaws. It's just hard for me to confidently pick Cerrone, even though I think he's more skilled basically everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if Leon Edwards just in the 3rd or 4th round throws a super hard left body kick and drops Cerrone. It's just hard for me to pick Cerrone at 35 years old in a 5-rounder against a very durable, young, pretty powerful guy.
And the thing about Cerrone, too, is he's always been a notoriously slow starter. Sometimes it takes him that one punch to kind of wake him up, and sometimes he never recovers from that punch. How do you think like the travel to Singapore plays a part in this? That always interests me. Like, because I mean, Cerrone lives. What time zone does he live in? New Mexico,
Albuquerque,
or Colorado,
Western or Mountain time, whatever. Either Pacific.
You got to go to the Asian, which is however many hours behind. You got to deal with the long flights, the layovers. Like how do you think that affects a guy like Cerrone coming from America?
I think at this point, though, I honestly think the advantage to an Asian fight is advantage Cerrone just because he has so much experience in all kinds of different situations. Whereas
that is a valid point.
Leon Edwards, you look at his record, he hasn't fought outside of Europe since 2015. The last time he lost was to Kamaru Usman, was when he fought in the United States, when he traveled. So part of me kind of thinks, even though Cerrone is traveling further from the United States to Asia rather than Europe to Asia, I don't know. I feel like he just has so much experience doing that kind of stuff that he's going to be a little bit more better adjusted.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. Yeah, I mean, what is this? Fight number 35 or 45 for Cerrone. Definitely more experience with that. I agree with your assessment, man. Leon is definitely a big physical guy who's shown great improvements in his wrestling. It's tough for me to pick against Cerrone.
Yeah, and Leon Edwards is not. He's not like super aggressive. Like he kind of lets the fight come to him. which could play into Cerrone's hand. You know, like Cerrone's had trouble with guys like Nate Diaz and RDA that just really get after him.
Pressure fighters, exactly.
Yeah, Leon Edwards doesn't really do that.
And that's the thing too. Like if you let Cerrone get in that rhythm where he starts really throwing his hands, mixing in the kicks, mixing up the punches. I mean, knees. He is tough to beat when he's able to really fire at range and get his stuff going. It's a tough one for me. Man, I got to go Cerrone here. I think, and Leon Edwards has everything going for him right now. He's on this win streak. He's feeling confident, but I just go back to that. Just the depth of Cerrone's resume, how many fighters he's fought. He's seen everything. There's nothing that Edwards can surprise him with. If he does get taken down, he's got an active guard, gets back to his feet well. And like you said, if Edwards lets him play his fight and warm up and get loose and in a rhythm, I think Cerrone's going to be tough to beat. I like Cerrone in a competitive decision. I think he ekes one out and keeps the ball rolling, breaking that record.
Yeah, I'd like to see it happen. And I think it's, even if Cerrone loses this fight, I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion that he's at least going to get one more win in his career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless he just looks awful here, which I don't. He's coming off a win over Yancy Medeiros, so there's no reason to think Cerrone is like a shot fighter. I do think he's wearing some miles. You know, the TKO losses to Till and Masvidal are not great looks, but he doesn't. No,
but he's not losing to bums just yet. You know, getting knocked out by lesser fighters. I mean, I think he's wearing it, like you said, but yeah, I don't think he's a shot porn fighter just yet. And this fight is definitely gonna tell which way he's headed. If he's still trending back upwards or he's starting to go on that downslide.
Yep.
Let's see. We got in the co-main event, we have Ovince St. Preux taking on Tyson Pedro. Again, this is I feel like every fight at light heavyweight kind of feels like a meaningful fight because it's so like shallow. Like any of these guys can go on a 2-3 fight win streak and be up in that title contention. St. Preux's fought for an interim title. He's fought just about everybody in that division. Some competitive, some less competitive. Fighting Tyson Pedro, who had the hype train slowed do a little bit a couple fights ago against Ilir Latifi. He got a big win over Safarov in his last fight. Do you think Pedro gets back that hype train moving a little bit again, or you think OSP just I guess his veteran experience prevails here?
I think OSP wins pretty easily here, which kind of OSP is a very, very small underdog here, which surprises me. I mean, the guy's he spent 25 minutes in the cage with John Jones. You know, he's
with a broken arm.
Oh yeah, you're right. And Glover Teixeira, Shogun, Bader, like all these guys that he's been in the cage with, and you know he's lost a lot of those big fights, but I don't have any reason to believe that OSP can't take down and ground and pound or submit Tyson Pedro. Not that Tyson Pedro is a bad fighter, but he's kind of like, in my mind at least, a bit of a poor man's version of OSP. Like he's tall and athletic, but I'm pretty sure OSP is maybe an inch taller. I think it's like 6'4" to 6'3", and I think OSP is more athletic. The problem with OSP is obviously sometimes he kind of does some bonehead things and gets himself into trouble. And maybe, you know, he's a little chinny. But Tyson Pedro, this will be his 9th pro fight, whereas OSP his record is 22-11 right now. So I think OSP just has too many skills, and I think he's just a better athlete. I think he's just a better version of Tyson Pedro. So yeah, I mean, I'm not buying that much hype behind Tyson Pedro.
Yeah, I can see that too, man. OSP has that tricky southpaw striking too. Kind of lulls you to sleep, and then he'll explode with some crazy stuff. He has there were some nice head kicks. He mixed in his wrestling really well. He's got a tough top game. He's got that Von Prue choke. Wouldn't that be crazy if he got another crazy Von Prue choke?
I hope so.
I don't think Tyson Pedro is going to be hanging on a guillotine. I think he's probably scouted that out. I'm with you here. I think it's a really tough fight for Pedro. You look at the guys that OSP's been in there with and hung in there with. Pedro's never seen anything close to that. His biggest fight was against Lair Latifi, and he lost. Another tough fight. I don't know, man. I'm kind of leaning towards Pedro. I don't know why. I think OSP definitely has better skills everywhere.
He's chinny. I think that's really the reason why.
He's chinny.
He's chinny, and Pedro he fucking hits hard and has never been stopped. Like, that's basically, which honestly at 205, like, what more do you need to analyze a fight? So
those thick-skulled Samoans, those guys could take a beating. Man.
Yeah.
It should be a fun fight, though. Further down on the card, Jessica Ai taking on Jessica Rose Clark. Man, it's kind of crazy that as good of a fighter she is, Jessica Ai, if you look at her record, she has 2 wins in the UFC, surrounded by 5 losses and a no contest. And Jessica Ai is a good fighter. She's fought, obviously, studs throughout her UFC career, but, man, that just pops out to me. Jessica Rose Clark, too, is she's on a roll. She looks really good right now. She's on a 3-fight win streak, 2 in the UFC over Beck Rollins, Paige Van Zandt. She really killed Paige Van Zandt's any little bit of her hype train that was still rolling. She kind of killed that in her last fight. She really put it on Paige. I don't know, man. I'm going Jessica Rose Clark. I think she's going to keep the ball rolling. She's going to be a little bit too gritty. She throws really good hands on the feet. I'm going Jessica Rose Clark here.
Yeah, me too. The thing with Jessica Ai is she does have skills kind of everywhere. She's not a bad grappler. She can be a decent boxer. I think she thinks of herself as a better boxer than she actually is. But the issue with Jessica Ai has always been just some terrible fight IQ, like in-fight decisions. And even though she has more experience than Jess, I think Jessica Rose Clark is a pretty well-trained fighter. I definitely think Jessica Rose Clark is a better athlete here. Like, she's really big for 125, pretty powerful, has a good, like, kind of all-around skill set, but I also think she might be the more technical striker. So yeah, I'm picking Jessica Rose Clark here. Kind of what you said, to be the more gritty fighter. I think she can get on top of Jessica Ai if and when she wants to, and I think on the feet she's more technical, and overall just a better athlete.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And that might spell the end for Jessica Ai's UFC career.
I think it's crazy. She lost so many fights. Jessica Ai did.
She had 4 losses in a row. She's lucky she's getting another chance. She kind of salvaged it with look at that, split decision win over Kalinja Faria in her last fight. That could have, if that went her way, she would have been 5 losses straight. Definitely a must win for Jessica Ai.
Yeah, and I think they want to push Jessica Rose Clark a little bit. Like, she's super active on social media. She connects with fans. I'm not saying they're trying to make Jessica Rose Clark the next, like, Paige Van Zandt or anything, not a huge star, but I think she could be a small draw in the future, or maybe even a big draw in the far future.
Agreed, man. What else? Li Jing Lang is opening the main card against Dachi Abe. Filler fight, man.
I think Li Jing Long is going to knock this dude's block off, is what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I could agree with that. He throws bombs. He's a fun fighter to watch.
Yeah, he's one. I think he's the Leech, I believe is his nickname. Is one of the more underrated fighters in the UFC. Probably because he's kind of a wacky dude and can get kind of wild, but he has some pretty legit, like, boxing skills. He's coming off a loss against Jake Matthews.
Matthews,
he's not a bad fighter. whatever. I think yeah, filler fight. I think he's gonna knock out Daiichi Abe, who does not like
fight of the night. Maybe, who knows? Wow, one of the big signings debuting on this card is Peter Yan. He's fought all of his fights in Russia, but I mean, this guy is a stud. 8-1, 3-fight win streak. One of the best prospects out there. Taking on Teruto Ishihara. I feel like Ishihara was getting a push for a while. They really wanted him to exceed, and he's just not panned out, I think, the way that they were hoping. He's lost three of his last 4. Against less than stellar competition. Bit of a showcase, I guess, for Yan against a guy that I thought they would be pushing a little bit more, or maybe just the push did not pan out.
Yeah, I think they've given up on Ishihara, as have I. Like, I thought Ishihara was going to be a lot better than he's panned out to be, because he will show some boxing skills, but he's also doesn't make very, very good in-fight decisions, is super hittable, is not as good of an athlete, I think, as people thought. But yeah, Peter Yan is kind of one of the main reasons to watch this card. So if people don't know who he is, tune in, because he has a super, super bright future. Like I think Peter Yan at bantamweight could be a top 10 guy within a year and a half.
I agree with that too, man. You think this is a good debut fight for Yan?
Yeah, I do, because he's only been a pro since 2013, so they can't rush him too much, but definitely give him a pretty winnable fight here. I like it. You know, they're not treating him like a super established guy. They're treating him like a prospect, which he is. He's still just a prospect.
Yeah, Ishihara is not a big fan of defense either.
No.
He's there to be tagged. Yeah, I think it's a good fight for Yan. Definitely tune in to watch him. What else do we got? Song Yadong. He's got a cool name to begin with. And Mr. Honky's posted some cool clips on Twitter. If you don't follow Mr. Honky on Twitter, get with it. That dude takes every fight from every card and just posts nonstop GIFs, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, the dude is the encyclopedia of every single fight that's ever happened in MMA. It's wild.
Taking on Felipe Arantes, who is a fun fighter. It's a good fight. A lot of these, like Rolando D, is fun to watch. I don't even know, man. It's a bunch. Nothing's popping off besides what we talked about, but it's going to be one of those cards where it's probably filled with fun fights.
I mean, yeah, fun fights. Jake Matthews is on the card, but otherwise, there's also going to be some fights that are that are maybe fun, but we talked about it before. Is like, what is UFC caliber? Like, that doesn't really exist anymore, because there are some fights on here. There are some fights on here that prove that point, that there is no such thing as UFC caliber anymore. And it's not to shit on these people. It's just that these are regional level fights, a lot of them.
Yeah, but I mean, props to them for getting to UFC and having a regional level fight. But yeah, I don't really think there is a UFC caliber anymore. There's so many fighters. Cards like this, it's got one marquee fight, and the rest is, the main card is solid. And then it's just, yeah, like you said, regional fights. Guys getting chances, guys local to the area. Usually produces fun fights. I feel like they have more to fight for, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't think they're guaranteed anything past one fight. Even if they sign contracts, you've seen guys, get cut after a fight. And then you see guys like CM Punk get 2 fights.
Well, it's a special case, but yeah. I mean, people like us, like, I'm going to end up watching the whole card, but probably not paying that close of attention to a lot of it unless I hear something good about a certain fighter. But I mean, it's on Fight Pass. I suppose we shouldn't really, it's not like this is a pay-per-view or on Fox or anything like that. So it is what it is. I know that's the popular thing to say in MMA, but it is
what it is. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
So let's just go over a couple odds and ends before we wrap this up and get out of here. Did you see Wonderboy's comments about the knee kick rule?
I did. He wants to make like straight kicks to the knee illegal.
He does. What do you think about that?
The fuck out of here. I don't like why. Like, I could knee bar you. I could. There's so many other things. I don't see why that should be illegal. It's a very dangerous strike, yes, but there's a lot of dangerous attacks in MMA. It's something that you can defend and plan around, and I don't know.
Getting elbow kicked, knee in the head is dangerous too. Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, you stepping in the cage is dangerous enough. I don't know. It could definitely do damage. It's a very effective kick. I don't think they're going to ban it. I just thought it was interesting, and he got a lot of people talking about it though.
Yeah, but I think most people are like making fun of him at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, and I can't remember who it was on Twitter that pointed out that, like, here's a guy from a kickboxing background where strikes below the waist are not allowed. Like, of course he's going to say, I don't think this should be allowed. It's because he was brought up in like the fucking Chuck Norris Combat League or whatever, where there are no leg kicks.
Yeah.
Right. I call it long pants kickboxing, that style.
Long pants, like the Rex Quanto.
Yes, that's because that's what it is, a lot of spinning, a lot of bouncing, not a lot of great boxing, but a lot of like kicks to the body and kicks to the head.
Was it him that made the comment too that he thinks that if you miss weight, you shouldn't be eligible to move up in the rankings?
I think he said that, but I've heard other fighters say that as well. So I don't think it's that's that crazy, and that, at least in my mind, at least rationally makes sense. Yeah, because that rationally makes sense. You're not fighting at that weight class, so why should you be able to move up? Like Mackenzie Dern. Remember, Mackenzie Dern was closer to 125 than 115, and she moved up.
Yeah,
she exactly. Became ranked.
Yes,
that makes no sense.
And then unranked after everyone started bugging out. They felt the pressure on that one. That's funny. Yeah. What else do we got here?
PFL is putting on another phenomenal card, like a great card this week.
Yeah, Thursday night. I really enjoyed that last PFL card. I thought it was really good. Like you said, they got a lot of good fighters. See if we could pull up this.
There is Honey Marks, Jason High, Efrain Escudero, Kayla Harrison making her pro debut, I believe.
That's a big one, yeah.
Ramsey Najem, Will Brooks,
Luis
Firmo, Vinny Magalhães. This is just a great card.
Thiago Tavares.
Holy shit. Yeah. Chris Wade.
I'm really interested. Wait, is Chris Wade on this one? Oh yeah, he is.
Dan Spawn.
That's the dude to watch, man. Chris Wade. I'm really interested to see how he does. He's another guy that was like, he left on such a high note from the UFC. I mean, the guy could not get fights. I'm really interested to see him, and I'm really interested to see Will Brooks. I want to see how he bounces back from that failed UFC stint, because I still think he could be one of the best fighters in the world. I don't know why it didn't come together for him in the UFC, but I still think he really has the potential to be a great.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays out for sure.
So that is Thursday night. This Saturday, EBI returns. Bantamweight females 135-pound tournament. Again, we always really harp on the BJJ tournaments when they come around, especially EBI, but they put on such a good show. It's a little bit different than MMA, but you can just see the highest level of grappling possible. I mean, there's some really good ladies in it. They also have 2 combat jiu-jitsu matches. Richie Martinez taking on Bobby Emmons. PJ Barch versus Mikey Gonzalez. So you get a little bit of physical contact in it. But, yeah, live on Fight Pass. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, EBI, the bantamweights. Female bantamweights.
Yeah. Tune in. I'll watch that. Absolutely.
Oh, One more thing before we go. I think we forgot to mention it last week, but Ronda Rousey making the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And you know what we forgot to mention it too, is that they announced Rousey's induction to the Hall of Fame right before Holly Holm's fight, which made, like, they could do it any other time but then. I thought that was super weird and random. But yeah, Rousey.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that. That's funny.
Rousey to the UFC Hall of Fame. Whatever. I mean, I don't have any strong opinions on the UFC Hall of Fame.
That one's well-deserved. I mean, love her or hate her, she did a lot for women's MMA. She really brought it to the forefront. I still cringe at the way she left MMA, but she did do a lot for the sport. She had an excellent career, so props to Rousey. And I will say, too, like, I was very critical of Ronda Rousey's, wrestling ability, but she fought her first singles match in wrestling for the title on Sunday at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I know I'm nerding out right now, but she looked really freaking good. It looks like she's going to be a star over there. I mean, like I said, I was a bit critical, but man, she looked really good.
Yeah, so I didn't see the match, but from what I've heard, her in-ring ability is coming along quite nicely.
You know why I saw the match, Ben?
You have the network, $10 a month.
Gets you all the pay-per-views and all content. It gets you everything that UFC Fight Pass gives you, plus pay-per-views. I don't know why Fight Pass is not, or the UFC is not jumping on this yet. They have, I mean, everything that I've heard, the WWE Network does really well. Whereas Fight Pass is not doing really well, not as well as they hoped. I think if they went to that model, I really think it would up their buy rates.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's not even in the question now, especially with the new ESPN deal for the UFC. I'm sure, but yeah, I mean, they got to change. I assume that the business model for the UFC is going to change in the near future, or they're just going to assume that pay-per-views are just not going to sell that well, and that's just kind of what they plan for.
$65 a month is not cheap, man. And especially back in the day when there wasn't a million shows a year. I mean, you could get up for a pay-per-view, right? Because you've been fiending for it. They're just stacked. And now it's like, we got 13, 14 straight weeks of fights. It's a bit watered down. I mean, I'm going to watch every one of them. You're going to watch every one of them. But $65 a month is tough to shell out. No.
And the issue is that you can see it's a gift and a curse to have so many other fights on television, because I can watch big stars and great fights on cable TV. So there's less of a incentive for me to watch a pay-per-view because I can still see big fighters on just regular FS1, which is great, but it also means it kind of kills a lot of the excitement around big pay-per-views.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, I love the WWE Network. I only I'm hit or miss with my Fight Pass. I don't use it enough for old content. So if there's nothing going on, I will I'll cancel the subscription. This weekend, I'll bring it back to watch Singapore and EBI. But after that, I mean, I don't feel like I use it enough.
Yeah, I basically use it to watch. I mean, I watch the live stuff, but I use it to watch old fights.
Yeah, maybe I gotta start doing that more. Who knows? Are we missing anything this week?
That's it.
So before we go, we are going to end with an interview that Ben did with Jeremy Kennedy. They're going to talk about it, but Jeremy Kennedy is the newest signing for Brave CF. So enjoy that and enjoy the fights this weekend.
I am now joined by Brave CF's newest big signee, Jeremy Kennedy. Jeremy, thanks for taking the time to join me today. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to talk to you. So I guess right off the bat, like I said, you are, Brave Combat Federation's biggest kind of new signee. I guess let's just start from the beginning. What led you to signing with this new organization, leaving the UFC, and kind of testing the waters elsewhere?
Yeah, well, I fulfilled my contract with the UFC after my 4-fight deal, and I went 3-1 with the promotion. And then there's just kind of some stuff that was taking some time. And my last fight, I suffered my first loss, and so I wanted to jump back into it right away. And things were just getting delayed and taking a while. And I reached out to Brave because I've been out to a few of their events cornering fighters, part of my teammates, and I really like their show, the way they run things. I know their whole team and staff and stuff like that, and I just like the idea of Brave. They're all over the Middle East and Brazil and Europe and stuff like that, and I like the traveling aspect, and they bring in all these good fighters from that side of the world that I don't really typically get to test myself against. So I jumped on it. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to test myself and hopefully collect a belt by the end of the year, or if not, a little into the next year.
And do you know when or where your first fight with the organization is going to be?
Well, I know it's going to be near the end of August. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to announce, they've told me tentatively where it's going to be, and no opponent yet, but yeah, they haven't announced it publicly. So, I don't know if I can go ahead and say where, but it's going to be cool. It's somewhere I've never been, obviously. It's somewhere out that in the, out that area, and it'll be near the end of August.
Okay. Have you ever fought outside of outside of North America? I suppose you had the fight in Australia. Anything otherwise?
Yeah, man. I've done a lot. It's been a big part of my career. I fought in Thailand as well. I lived out there for a year, and I had a few fights out there, and then I fought in Brazil. I fought in New York, and obviously Canada, where I'm from. So I've been around a little bit, fought a few countries.
Any favorite countries? Any favorite parts of the world to fight in?
I really like Thailand. Thailand was, just the culture, everything about it. I loved it. Brazil was pretty cool too. A little hostile because I was facing a Brazilian, but that's a big fight cultural country, is a culture country too. So Australia was good. Yeah, I like traveling and I like fighting. It's what I do. I love to travel and I love to fight, so it's perfect to do both.
And do you know, is Brave going to, because I introduced you as their newest kind of big signee. Are they going to kind of make you, the centerpiece of the organization? Because like I said, you only have one loss, right, off that great UFC run. There's a lot of kind of promotion to be made behind you. Do you know if they're going to push you, into a title shot quickly, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm game for anything. It'd be nice if they kind of built me up, and because I am a Brave Combat Federation fighter now, so it makes sense for them to kind of promote me as such instead of kind of just bringing me in and just like all the just another fighter. So I've got a bit of a background behind me. So if they can use that, that'd be perfect. And I know it's not a title fight right off the shot, for my next fight, but if I get a good, impressive showing my first fight, then who knows? Maybe it's meant to. I'm ready to go. It's not like they need to groom me for a title shot. I just think I would rather be in, and because they're a different market. It's a different fan base and everything. It's another side of the world. So it makes sense for me to kind of come in and maybe have a fight or two to really introduce myself to the Brave fan base, before I jump into a title shot thing. But if they want to go ahead and give me a title shot, of course I'll take that. That's a awesome opportunity. And I don't think I don't need any grooming. I don't need any time or anything like that for it.
Do you have any idea of any opponents you'd like to face?
It's hard because, they've only had, 12 events, I think it is now. So I don't know exactly who's under contract with them. But as of so far, the people I've seen that have fought in my division I like that Khalid Taha. He just fought Hamza, which is that's a big promotional push from both of them. So that would be a good fight for me to come in on. He's got a good record. I think he's 12-1. So yeah, that would be an awesome fight. That also Murat Magomedov. He's connected to the Khabib kind of style. So he's got a lot of followings too, and he's in my division, and he just picked up a win as well. So there's the champ, obviously Elias. So there's a lot of good guys in the division. It's not like I'm coming to a step down, from the UFC. Like all these guys are UFC caliber. They're all, top notch. They've all got great records. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Would you ever, because I know you had the one lightweight bout in the UFC, and at least you don't look like a tiny featherweight.
No.
Would you ever consider going around to lightweight, and you're also a young guy, so I don't know if that's in your future at all?
Like I debuted at 55 in the UFC just because that was the opening that I got, presented to me, and you can never say no. You just got to jump on it and take what's given to you. 55 is not out of my possibilities. I like 45. I've studied that division. I already know their division. I know, I like training with other 45ers, and I really watch my diet year round. Like, if I was like a most fighters where they kind of get fat in the off season, then it would be hard to make 45 just with my stature and my build. But I eat super clean. Like I'm in fight camp all year round. I keep my weight really, right where I want it, just so I can make 45 at any given time if a opportunity presents itself. I can make 45 in probably 10 days notice at any given time. I'm never too far out, but 55 would be comfortable, man. That would be nice. I could eat a little bit more, and it wouldn't be wasted, weight. I would be able to put it to use with my size. So, if that's what comes down the road, then perfect. But right now I can make 45 with not a problem. So,
do you mind if I ask about how much weight you cut to get to 45?
Well, I typically, I like to cut around 20 pounds. That's a comfortable weight cut, within the week, the 10 days. A little bit more is okay. A little bit less is even perfect. But I don't like to walk anything higher than, 25 pounds out of fighting weight. But just because after you weigh in, you only put on a certain amount. So I like to train at that same kind of weight that I would be fighting in. These guys who walk around at, let's just say for numbers, 175 pounds, and then it takes them 8 weeks to get down to, 63, 62, and then they cut from there to 45, and then they only get back up to 61 or 2 within 24 hours of the fight. That's not what they're used to. That's superficial. They're used to walking around at 170 and training, feeling good at that weight. So I like to try to get low to where I would be fighting and training at that weight and being comfortable there and being able to, perform at that weight, because a lot of guys aren't used to that.
Right. And on that, because I'm interested in getting fighters' perspectives on this, is the UFC switching news that
early weigh-ins all day.
Exactly. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the early weigh-ins?
Oh man, it's way better. I even their reasoning behind it, like you just got to look at them like, what do you mean? Like, fighters aren't morning people? That doesn't make any sense. So you're starving yourself anyways. That last 24 hours, you're not going to sleep good if your weigh-ins are at 4 p.m. or 9 a.m. Like, I would rather just get up, get the cut with, and then you can have like 3 proper meals in that day, rather than, by the time you weigh in, especially the way they do it, where they ship us all out because in the UFC Australia card was the old weigh-ins. So we had to be on weight by like 1 p.m. anyways. So you're giving us like 2 extra hours, and then we have to sit on weight for 3 hours till we get to the public weigh-ins, do all that. And so you're sitting at that real fatigue state for so long. And then it takes so much longer to get that food back into you, because, by the time you get home, it's 5 p.m., then you're eating, and then you want to sleep, and it's just doesn't make sense. The day before, early, like the morning weigh-ins, you get all day, and then you get the fight day, which you don't typically eat too much on fight day anyway, because the nerves and all that. So it makes a lot more sense hydration wise and safety wise to do it more early.
Yeah, man, I haven't heard or seen any single fighter that's not in favor of the early weigh-ins. So
no, I don't understand why you would want to. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but whatever.
And then I know you said that you're kind of always in fight camp. Are you? What are we? 10 weeks out from late August? I don't know. Your fight.
Yeah, it's about 9 weeks. This week would be like 9 or 10 weeks ish. Okay. Yeah. So I'm in full swing. I've been training hard for the last few months. I've moved down to Vegas permanently, so I've been training like I have a fight at any given time for the last few months now, and I'm like, I can fight next weekend. I can make weight. I would perform, and ready to go. So.
And are you at Extreme Couture now full time?
Yeah, I'm still doing some training sessions at the UFC Performance Institute, and then I go to 10th Planet in Henderson out here. But do a lot of good rolls, a lot of good bodies out there as well. And I kind of just bounce around. There's a few other coaches that are kind of just teach, and they don't have their own gym. So I've got a lot of different eyes on me out here now.
And who are your main training partners? Do you have anybody your size?
Yeah, that's the good thing. I mean, typically when you're at smaller gyms, or just home gyms, I guess you would say, like back home, it's hard to find guys my weight class. I'm either training with 35ers or 55ers or whatever. We're out here, we've got a pretty good little group of 45ers. Dan Ige, who just fought, last weekend. Julian Arosa, Lance Palmer's been out here for a bit. We got lots of good 45ers. A guy named Yaz who's fighting on the Contender Series tonight, who's a 45er. We've got a good group of about 6 to 8 of us, and then there's even some 35ers that I like moving around with, and also some 55ers. But Extreme's got no shortage of bodies.
Right. And then I'm curious, going back further, when I watch you fight, you have like excellent takedowns, top control. Yeah. What was your background before MMA, or was there a background before MMA?
It was actually gi jiu-jitsu. I was doing gi since I was a little kid, and I never did any high school wrestling. My high school didn't have a wrestling team or anything like that, but I was 12, I think, when I started. But the gym I started in was like probably 8 feet by like 30 feet, so it's just like a long tunnel, And whenever we'd do it, like I would be doing no gi or gi, I would always end up on my feet, and we'd pushing each other into these walls. And so I just got used to that cage wrestling, and that kind of developed my own little like system on the wall that I use, and it works a lot against these guys, And they just don't. It's weird because the training partners I've grew up with, I have a harder time with them on the wall because they've grown up training with me. So then as soon as I get in the fight and I'm doing some stuff that I've had to move past because all my training partners know about it, but it's working on these guys, So it's pretty cool, and it's comforting. But now I've kind of switched my style up a little bit, just to be more well-rounded. And then when I get into a fight, instead of being like tunnel vision, like I got to take this guy down, know that that's always there, but show off my striking instead of always just right away, like I got to inflict what I'm best at, which is the takedown and riding them out and, top control and stuff like that. So, I mean, now I'm a little bit more comfortable going out there and, like trying to outstrike these guys before I threaten that takedown, or maybe threaten the takedown early, but continue to outstrike them and stuff like that. I'm just kind of mixing it up and having fun because I got so much downtime and free time out here. Like all I do is train all day, so I can mix it up.
Right on. And have you been full-time training since your entire career, or were you doing part-time, anything like that?
Yeah, as soon as I turned pro, like I was fighting amateur right out of high school. I was fighting amateur and then pro and stuff like that. And I had some side jobs and little jobs that kind of worked to my training schedule, because it's hard to get like a, 9 to 5 or whatever, a 7 to 3 construction job where it's physically demanding and then go train all day, all night. So whatever's kind of helped me with my training. But typically when I'm home, I like to teach a lot too. So like I'll teach in the evenings and train during the day, but still no matter what, whenever I'm at home, I kind of, just end up filling up my days with stuff. I don't know how, but it's like I always end up being busy, where out here, I'm a new guy. I got nothing else to do out here other than train and focus on training 100%. I don't have any responsibilities that's like bills or walking my dog or whatever it is, man. Like, meal prepping, all that kind of stuff. It just seems like I've got a lot more downtime out here to focus on training. And if I'm not training, I'm recovering. And if I'm not recovering, I'm fight studying. So it's all day, every day. It's just, I got to fight soon.
It's kind of crazy because you live in Vegas, whereas like, people go there to escape all responsibility, and you're there saying, I got nothing to do but train. Yeah.
It's funny how it's like my Vegas is a lot different than, 99% of people's Vegas is. Whenever they say, oh, you're going to Vegas, it's like, I haven't been to the Strip in I don't know how long. I've been here for 4 months, and yeah, I can't remember the last time I went to the Strip or even close to the Strip. Everything's outside of it, and I'm just training. So it's funny. I don't drink, I don't gamble. So it doesn't make sense for me to go that way.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being a fighter and having those vices living in Vegas.
Yeah, I don't think it would work too well.
No, not at all. Do you still train in the gi at all?
Very, very minimal. It's kind of like a hobby. Now but if I'm downtime off season, I'll play with the gi a little bit. I can't remember the last time I used it. It was probably a couple months ago back home. I didn't even bring my gi out with me to Vegas. Mm-hmm. I just do a lot of no gi. Like if I'm just doing strictly rolling, I typically go to 10th Planet, which is all no gi. Gi, it's still beneficial for sure, but just when I'm in a fight, like right now, I'm kind of getting ready for a fight at any given time. I've stayed away from the gi, but I still do like it and I enjoy it.
And something we talk about, Kurt and I talk about on the podcast a lot, because we're both kind of jiu-jitsu guys.
I was going to say, the ears you trained.
The cauliflower ears are there. Would you ever consider doing like a submission only match or some sort of no gi match?
Yeah, absolutely. That SUG is not far from my home in Vancouver. I would love to do that. I would love to do any kind of, it's competition. I love competing. I run triathlons. I just like competing against anything, doing anything, so it's, I like doing the IBJJF tournaments, NAGA. I'll do any kind of tournament I can get my hands on that's appropriate, like right now I've kind of stayed away from them because I don't want to get injured or I don't want to focus too much on strictly jiu-jitsu, and if I do, I don't take it too serious in a sense where I'll still probably be like MMA sparring on my Tuesday of the week of the tournament, doing my wrestling and all that other stuff. Like I don't want to take away from my main goal just to focus strictly on jiu-jitsu, Mm-hmm. But I love it and I do compete, but I don't do jiu-jitsu training camps, I guess I would say.
Right. MMA is your main.
Yeah, it's the money maker.
And then I guess going back to Brave, when I go to their website, they market themselves as like a return of Pride Fighting Championships. Do you feel like there's like more of an emphasis? And I feel like once you're outside of the UFC too, and outside of North America specifically, there's more of an emphasis on just being on entertaining. Do you feel that at all? Like, I mean, if you look at the places that Brave has been, like Indonesia, Jordan, Bahrain, Kazakhstan, all these countries where they probably really just want to see entertaining fights. Do you feel that pressure to just be entertaining?
No, I mean, like that's what I want now anyways. I've got nothing to lose. Like I'm not, in the UFC, I was kind of like stuck on this. As much as I was saying in my interviews when people would be like, how does it feel being undefeated? And I'd be like, it's no pressure. Once I did lose, I realized how much of a pressure I was carrying on myself, where now I'm just excited to go out there and test my skills, like train like I do in the gym, like fight like I train in the gym, instead of going out there and just trying to gun for that win and like win every little inch of a battle and secure the takedown and stuff like that. So I'm excited to it. It's a whole new fan base. I get to introduce myself as a, fresh fighter and I'm pumped for it.
And kind of on that and just a couple more questions here. Do you feel like there's any pressure lifted now that you had that one loss? Cause you still are probably like Canada's one of the top MMA prospects, fighters coming out of Canada. Do you feel like there's any pressure lifted?
A little, yeah, there's pressure lifted, but there's also just like another drive in me. Like, I don't know. It just feels like I kind of got written off. Like especially now that I haven't fought in a few months or I haven't been, made any headlines or anything like that kind of thing. Like no fight news. It's just like, I don't know, after that loss kind of people were, not writing me off, but just I wasn't the next big Canadian prospect. And I'm excited to prove all those guys wrong. Like I know exactly, I didn't lose a step. I know exactly what my potential is. And even when I'm watching fights now, every 45 fight, whether it's in small organizations or Brave or One Championship or UFC or whatever, I'm always watching my division because I just want to see where my level of competition is. And I always see holes that I think I can, I think I'm just, better at, to say it blunt. And, I'm just excited to show that, and I can't wait. It takes a while in this game because fights are every few months and you're only as good as your last fight. But, I'm excited for after this next one at Brave to come out there, put a stamp on it, and people are going to be like, okay, here he is again, and, that's what drives me even more. Absolutely.
All right. Well, if you want to, let us know where we can follow you on social media, you can do that now, and then we'll get you out of here.
Yeah. I mean, all my stuff mostly is on Instagram. So that's, Jeremy Kennedy 145. Twitter a little bit, I'll talk a little bit of smack over there. Jeremy Kennedy WC, and then just Facebook under my name. But yeah, Instagram is where most of my content goes.
All right, man. Well, late August, we are very much looking forward to your.
Brave should be announcing soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep our eyes peeled.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time today, and good luck with your training.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man.